So we're going to get started with our critical incident community briefing on the OIS that happened at 1404 Betts Drive back in October. Deputy Commander Hartsock's going to go over the presentation. And just as kind of a looking forward a little bit, there are two other recent officer-involved shootings. We'll have those briefings probably in about 2 weeks after the holidays. We're still interviewing officers and putting everything together. So with that, I'll turn it over to Hartsock.
Good afternoon. My name is Deputy Commander Kyle Hartsock. I work at the Criminal Investigations Division of the Albuquerque Police Department, which helps oversee the multi-agency task force, which investigates all officer-involved shootings. The incident we're here to talk about today happened on October 5th, 2022, at 1404 Betts Drive Northeast. Our case number is 22-77984. This briefing will provide information about a person who was barricaded inside a home at that address, who then fired at police, which led to an officer-involved shooting. You're about to see relevant video footage, police audio, and learn about other evidence and police procedures related to the case so that you can have a better understanding of what occurred based on what we know right now. The Albuquerque Police Department conducts very thorough criminal and use of force investigations, which typically require investigators to interview multiple witnesses, review hours of video footage, and analyze a significant amount of forensic evidence. We're still at the early stages of this investigation, which can often take several months to complete. Our understanding of the incident may change as additional evidence is collected, analyzed, and reviewed. We also do not draw any conclusions today about whether the officers acted consistent with our policies and the law until all the facts are known and the investigation is complete. A word of caution: the images and video may be disturbing. When police officers use force to arrest a subject or defend against an attack, it can be graphic and difficult to watch. In addition, there may be strong language by those shown in the video. The involved officer works in a sensitive investigative unit inside the police department. For his safety, we are not publishing his name at this time, but he has been with the Albuquerque Police Department for approximately 17 years, and he has not been involved in any prior officer-involved shootings. The subject that we believe fired at officers is 28-year-old Daniel Rodriguez of Albuquerque. The incident that we're here to talk about today took place in our Northeast Area Command. On October 5th, 2022, a 911 call came into our emergency communications center from a female victim who said that she had just been carjacked outside her residence in the northeast part of Albuquerque. Patrol officers quickly relayed information to detectives with our investigative support unit, who located the carjacked vehicle parked at 1404 Betts Drive Northeast and started to conduct surveillance of that residence. During that surveillance, detectives observed a male exit the residence, walk to a vehicle inside the property, and then walk back inside the residence, confirming that someone was there where our carjacked vehicle was. Around 7 p.m., detectives established a perimeter around the residence and started to make public address announcements for the occupants of the home to exit. Shortly after those announcements started, 2 adult males did exit the residence. Officers still believed more persons were inside the home, so they continued to do public address announcements for all the occupants to come out and surrender. Detectives were positioned, in addition to the front of the house, at the rear of the residence, highlighted in yellow, and observed a male attempting to exit through the back patio door, while more visible officers up front were asking everybody to come out the front door. Detectives gave the male commands to surrender, but he refused and fled back inside the residence. A short time later, a male was observed attempting to climb out of a back window of the residence. Detectives again gave the male commands to surrender, and he went back inside the residence. Very shortly after that second male appeared, another male appeared. We're not sure if it's the same male or a different one. Reappeared in the window and fired a handgun at officers who were set up in the back of the house. A single detective returned fire. Nobody was struck during this exchange of gunfire. Here's the OBRD from the detective who does fire his weapon.
Please hands up! Please hands up! SMA, all black. Tried to come out the side 3 window. He's down back inside.
I see his head right there.
Is he outside or inside?
Okay.
Shots fired, 3474.
You all right?
Yep, duck back by the shed.
Good? Huh?
Duck back by the Yep, oh, I'm good. Duck back by the shed. Carry light. Here we have 2 guys already here.
Here's a slowed down version of the shooting portion of the video we just showed you.
Is he outside or inside?
Easy.
After the shooting, another person surrendered through the front of the house, and officers from our special tactics unit SWAT team cleared the residence, and inside they found Mr. Rodriguez hiding. He was taken into custody. During the search warrant executed on the home, this black firearm was located on a couch inside the house. Our investigation has already revealed that this gun had been reported stolen locally about June 26th of this year. Firearms testing and a NIBIN lead indicated that this handgun is the gun that shot at officers during this incident. This is the area that detectives were during the shooting. They were positioned in the backyard of a neighboring residence behind a cylinder block wall. This is the perspective from the back window of the home where we believe the shooter fired his rounds at officers. The circle highlights an actual impact into the wall right where the officer was standing on the opposite side, showing that the person was targeting the police officers. This is a closer look at that impact into the cylinder block wall. The arrows highlighted in yellow are the impacts from the detective's rounds when he returned fire. The lower red arrow is a third casing from the offender's firearm. The other 2 casings I'll show you in a second. They're inside the home. And the upper red arrow indicates where we believe 1 round was fired from inside the home out the window towards the officers in the backyard. Two casings were located inside the residence, and again, we've already tested them to the firearm that was found inside, and they match. We believe, again, he was standing at this window when he fired at officers in the backyard. And this is the same perspective, but instead of the floor, now you're looking up. You're seeing the rounds from the detective as he fired into the home. They penetrated the wall and entered the house. But again, nobody was injured during the shooting. The subject we believe fired at officers is 28-year-old Daniel Rodriguez of Albuquerque. On November 17th, a Bernalillo County judge signed an arrest warrant for the following charges: armed robbery, aggravated assault upon a peace officer, felon in possession of a firearm, and unlawful taking of a motor vehicle. The night of this incident, on October 5th, Daniel was booked into jail for outstanding warrants, and he was also found to have violated his probation and has already been sentenced to an additional 3 years, approximately 3 years in prison for his previous charges before this shooting took place. The New Mexico District of the United States Attorney's Office and the ATF are also assisting us in investigating this incident. Over the next several months, the APD will continue to investigate and analyze this incident. We'll continue to interview any new witnesses that come forward and complete any forensic test. After the investigation is complete, our Force Review Board will forward the findings to the Superintendent of Police Reform to determine if this incident met the high standards of the Albuquerque Police Department. The ATF will forward their case to the District Attorney's Office, who will make any determination of criminal charges. And if you guys have any questions, I'm happy to try to answer.
Yeah, what makes you believe it was Rodriguez and not the other guy?
One thing I forgot to mention, I apologize, we're going to give you the criminal complaint of that investigation that outlines the basis for charging him. But one of the biggest evidence items we have is we've already collected DNA from Mr. Rodriguez and the firearm, and it matches. He was also the last one out of the house, and he was hiding. He basically carved out a hole for himself and hid from officers. He had to be pulled out of his hiding spot. So
A hole in what?
Part of the, I'm not super clear, but he didn't come out voluntarily. He had to be found by officers during their search after this incident.
What unit was the officer in?
The investigative support unit?
Is he back on from his administrative leave?
He is back on duty.
And when I went by the house the next day, neighbors had said there was a hot spot, there was lots of, constant activity there, constant cars. What has been done about that house in the past couple of months? Is it still on the APD radar, or is anything else being done there?
Yeah, and I don't know if we want someone else to speak on that. I know all the houses that we look at, they're evaluated by area commanders after shootings. I can't speak too directly though to Commander Garrett is the area commander.
My name is Sean Garrett, I'm the Federal area commander.
Join me.
So, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sean Garrett. I'm the commander for the Foothills Area Command, and that property is still on our radar. There are some investigations still taking place in and around that location.
Were any charges brought against anybody else that exited the house that night?
So there's still an investigation going on, so that's still kind of to be determined, but some persons at the house had warrants for their arrest, so they did go to jail that night.
Okay.
But so far, only Mr. Rodriguez is directly charged with the shooting incident at police officers.
Is he the suspect in the carjacking as well?
He is charged with armed robbery related to that carjacking, but that investigation is a little bit separate, but the complaint will lay out kind of how we got there as well.
Anything else? Okay. All right, thank you, everybody.
Happy Thanksgiving.